Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast that comes to you from an altitude of 11,500 feet in Leh, Ladakh. I'm Gaurav Sawant. The images that we are putting out on your television screen are images of Indian Army soldiers, India's braves, pushing back Chinese intruders at the line of actual control. Of course, this is an unverified video in the sense that it hasn't officially been verified by the Indian Army. It's going viral. It appears to be recent since both Indian and Chinese soldiers are wearing face masks. So this is a post-corona development. There's still snow at those altitudes. This could well be Nakula in North Sikkim. But we urge caution as you watch these images, because here you see the braves of the Indian Army very politely but very firmly push the Chinese intruders back. The Chinese are trying to transgress the line of actual control, and this is settled. There is no reason for the Chinese to come here, but our soldiers, they're just telling the Chinese to move back to their country. I'll get you much more on this story. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Also on the show, a marathon meeting between the Corps Commander of the Fire and Fury Corps in Ladakh, Lieutenant General Harinder Singh, and the Chinese Commander of the South Xinjiang Forces, Major General Lin Liu, on for over 10 hours and counting. India's staring the dragon down, saying China needs to withdraw to pre-May2 location. All that and much more. But as always, let's get started. But our top focus story on the broadcast is the resoluteness of Indian soldiers. Watch these images that we are putting out on your television screen. These are Indian soldiers, and watch them as they push the Chinese transgressors back across the line of actual control. This is an undated video. Many videos like this have come out in the past, but this shows very politely but very firmly the Indian soldiers are telling the Chinese soldiers to get back on the other side of the border. I quickly want to bring in the finest voices on defense in India Today. India Today's editor defense, Abhishek Bhalla, and Shiv Arur, who joined me for more on the story. Abhishek, to you first. Give us details of this video that we've accessed.
Well, Gaurav, as you said that, this is an unverified video, but I can tell you, sources have indicated that this is North Sikkim. And in fact, it could either be Nakula or the bunker area, which is a plateau. That's where this video appears to be from. And it's probably in sometime in April. That's what has been indicated to us. And that was when problems started. There was a build-up at the line of actual control. And there were, in fact, several these kind of face-offs then. And this finally, culminated into the big face-off on the 5th of May at the Pangong Lake, where there was a ferocious fist fight. Many soldiers got injured, and that started the long standoff between the two armies, and this, fresh round of violence that has been going on.
Abhishek, stay with me. Let me also bring in Shiv Arur for more on this. Shiv, there appears to be a pattern. Shiv, there appears to be a bigger pattern to the Chinese actions, even if it's happening in Sikkim or it's happening in multiple places in Ladakh. But there's a much wider game plan that the Chinese have. But our soldiers are very firm. They've stalled the Chinese advance, and now they're pushing them back.
Gaurav, this particular video, we have a confirmation that it is either in late May or sometime even possibly this month. We'll have a fix on that in just a couple of hours from now. But what this video establishes very, very clearly is just how no-nonsense Indian troops are. These are troops from the Rajput regiment who are deployed, as Abhishek correctly pointed out. This is in North Sikkim, not very far from Nakula. And in this particular area, Chinese troops have had a habit of salami slicing for a very long time, except on repeated occasions, whenever they've tried to provoke, whenever they've tried to, show their bodily aggression, you see them being pushed back in a very aggressive manner by the Indians. Very important part about this video, Gaurav, is the body language. If you notice, the Chinese are very aggressive. Initially, the Indians are kind of humorous, and then they turn aggressive. So they give the Chinese a chance to, calm things down. And when they don't, you see those Chinese officers and soldiers getting a lot of punches and being totally overpowered. So I think the Chinese in this particular area are a little frustrated that they're figuring out that the Indian soldiers are not taking any nonsense.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that's our culture. Even Yogeshwar Sri Krishna had forgiven 99 sins of Shishupal and then taken action. Is that what India intends to do at the line of actual control? Shiv, stay on with me. There's more breaking news that's coming in. So this marathon meeting of the corps commanders, the generals on the Indian side and the Chinese side still on at Chushul, Moldo. Chushul, Moldo at an altitude of 14,388 feet to be precise, on the foothills of a pilgrimage spot, virtually a pilgrimage spot for every Indian, because this is where the Battle of Rizangla was fought in 1962, where 130 Veeraheers of the Charlie Company of the Kumaon Regiment had held back almost a Chinese brigade. This is where General Harinder Singh is now interacting with his Chinese counterpart, and India is very firm that the Chinese need to get back on the other side of the no man's land in Pangong So beyond Finger 8 and restore status quo ante at the line of actual control before May 6. I quickly want to once again bring in Abhishek Bhalla and Shivaru for more on this before I bring in our guests on the broadcast. But Abhishek, to you first. Take us through the broad contours of what India expects of China in this meeting.
Well, this is the second round of the corps commanders level meet. The last was on the 6th of June, and that's when India had put across its point that status quo ante needs to be maintained. And once again today, even though the developments of 15th June are very, very crucial, and that's the reason why there are two important points. One is complete pullback at Galwan, even though there continues to be a big troop deployment on either side of PP-14 at the line of actual control. And of course, the bigger problem, it seems, is at Pangong So, as you mentioned, Gaurav, that the Chinese are sitting in an area which was always under Indian control, the Finger 4 area, and in that grey zone between Finger 4 and Finger 8. There have been a lot of fortifications that the Chinese have come up with. They've enhanced their troop deployment there. But on the Indian side, there is a show of strength as well with a mirror deployment. So the message is loud and clear. Unless there is a pullback by the Chinese, the Indian soldiers are not going to relent.
And Shiv, this is where India stands firm, especially after the Chinese treachery at Galwan. There will be no give from the Indian side here.
No give at all, Gaurav, but it's going to be a pretty tricky situation. Like you pointed out, a marathon meeting that has lasted over 10 hours between the Lieutenant General and the Major General. I imagine that the meeting will have to end because it's night now. They'll each go back to their quarters and perhaps continue this meeting in the morning. We don't have a confirmation, but as we broadcast now, they are still actually in that BPM hut and conversing. Just 20 kilometers from where they are talking, Gaurav, to the north is Finger 4 of Pangong. That's how close it is. A very historic location, Rezangla, like you pointed out, just immediately to the west. And they're going to have to figure out what is happening. In Galwan, there has been a large mobilization after the carnage. But in Pangong, the efforts to change the status quo are most visible. And we've got that in satellite imagery. We've got that from ground inputs as well. Pangong is where the aggression being shown by China to build up numbers and change the status quo, taking advantage and manipulating the differing perceptions in that particular area is most prominent, Gaurav. So that's going to be very tricky, and that's perhaps why it's a key subject of discussions between the generals.
Sure. Shiv, stay on with me. We also have Colonel Dini joining us on the broadcast. He's commanded an infantry battalion at Pangong So. But before I come to Colonel Dini, let's take a look at the day's developments in greater detail. What India expects of China at these border talks.
A week after the deadliest clash on the LAC between the Indian and the Chinese troops, top military commanders of both sides got together again to defuse the tension. India has demanded that the Chinese have to go back to the positions held before May 4th. India has sought a clear timeline of withdrawal of the PLA troops and asserting that they should honor the commitments at Galwan Valley and completely disengage and stop the build-up along the LAC.
The current talks, the status is that we are strong. We are justified. We are justified in our actions and all.
India today has accessed exclusive satellite images of the meeting point of the crucial talks. The meeting called by the Chinese army was held at Moldo on the Chinese side of Chushul in eastern Ladakh. This is the second round of Lieutenant General talks and the first after the bloody brawl on June 15th when 20 Jawans lost their lives.
The night of 15 and 16 June, the military message has been given very strongly to them. Two things. We had 20 supreme sacrifice, but on their side, 43 PLA soldiers have been killed.
There has been no confrontation since June 15, but over 1,000 men are positioned on either side of the line of actual control, separated only by a few meters.
Even as talks between the top military commanders continue to find a resolution, the Indian Armed Forces are exploring all possible options to give a response in case the Chinese aggression continues.
But even as talks are on, India is constantly ramping up its military preparedness, given the heavy presence of Chinese troops in the Pangong Lake area.
India, in no uncertain terms, telling China that it needs to withdraw its forces to the pre-May location and gradually pull back to its peacetime location to ensure that there is no flare-up at the line of actual control. India has also told China that there are new rules of engagement for Indian forces, and a spark neglected could lead to a bigger flare-up. With cameraman Kripal Singh in Leh, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. I want to now bring in Colonel Dinny into this conversation. Colonel Dinny commanded a battalion at the line of actual control at Pangong So. He's patrolled till Finger 8. Colonel Dinny, given the situation on ground, how difficult will it be for General Harinder to get the Chinese general to accept that they need to move back beyond Finger 8?
Thank you, Gaurav. Like you mentioned, it will be difficult, but not impossible. The reason why I say is that, this is a disputed area. There is always been a problem there for past so many years, and of course the scale at which this particular incident is happening is totally different, totally at a different level. But I'm optimistic about the fact that ultimately the Chinese will go from there, because they cannot stay there in such a blatant manner and change the status quo and then think that India will just take it lying down. I don't think so that is going to happen. The Chinese knows that what are the problems of troops being in close contact. We saw that in Galwan. So I really doubt whether they're going to continue this for a very long time. And also to the fact that the more it continues, the more it becomes for China to then extricate itself from such a precarious situation. So I really believe that probably we may move into a situation sooner than rather than later, wherein we will see that the Chinese will make some move. Maybe it may be in a slow process, but definitely some movement we will be seeing in the future, Gaurav.
But Colonel Dinny, if I may, the Chinese may say, and not immediately, I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate. They'll say that it's our claim line till Finger 4. We will continue to stay here. Do what you want. Point 1. Point 2, even if they move back, let's say as a face saver, and stay till Finger 6 or Finger 7, isn't that a loss of face for India? How do we ensure that they go back not just beyond Finger 8, but also vacate the ridge lines?
Absolutely, Gaurav. As far as India is concerned, our stand is very clear that they have to move away from Finger 8. That is the status quo ante. How the region was in the month of April, that is the way India will be negotiating. Nothing less than that. As far as your question about the ridges, we must understand certain things. In the area of Pangong So, that is between Finger 4 and Finger 8. There are few facts. First fact is that yes, there are Chinese there. Chinese have put the tents there. Now, also the way they have scattered these structures all across the ridgeline from 4 to 8 is quite obvious that they want us to see that it is there. Otherwise, tactically speaking, there is no, tactical gain, whether it is in the border management posture or whether in the conventional war posture, to have to occupy those heights. So there is no point in, just putting those kind of structures, whatever may be. They have this prefabricated huts, they may have prefabricated pits, whatever, or maybe just plastic, or whatever thing they want to put it there. It is a message. It is a message that, we this time we are serious about our posturing, and that is this entire area belongs to us. And those kind of things they want to convey. But after the negotiation,
absolutely.
I'm hoping that, yeah.
Colonel, you've been the man on ground. It's been my proud privilege that I've seen that area while we were shooting for the Paramveer Chakra series, both Rizangla and areas close to Sirijap, where Major Dhan Singh Thapa won his Paramveer Chakra, and of course Major Shaitan Singh at Rizangla. But I want to come back to the situation on ground currently. India Today's Shiv Arur has pieced together this information about how the Chinese have advanced up to Finger 4, and they've made pillboxes in that area, which is a clear and present danger for us.
Look closely at this image. Chinese outposts, but these aren't just camps with tents. Some of those objects you see are pillboxes. What's a pillbox, you're wondering? Pillboxes are concrete structures with a window from which to fire weapons, like this one. In normal course, this June satellite image put out by Australian analyst Nathan Ruser wouldn't cause much alarm. Except when you find out where these Chinese positions are. What you're looking at is here, the Finger 4 ridgeline on the banks of Ladakh's Pangong Lake. Last week we showed you how the Chinese had built up aggressively on this ridgeline, with these new Chinese positions staring down at a new Indian Army position barely half a kilometer downhill. And now we show you how the threat has visibly increased in the last few days. Satellite imagery captured over the weekend and put out by Ruser shows the Chinese are advancing down the hill by over 300 meters. The move is being seen as highly aggressive and provocative by the Chinese. Nathan Ruser, who has published these images, calls this the clearest transgression of the previously agreed upon status quo by Chinese forces in all of Ladakh. Now let's zoom out and show you how much China controls with its aggressive build-up here. The area between Finger 4 and Finger 8 is claimed by India, but is now overrun by Chinese positions, with the Indian Army now confined to a new position just west of the Finger 4 ridgeline. And this infamous beach is seeing plenty of activity too. After this violent brawl in 2017 and this one just last month, this is what the Finger 4 beach looks like now, with Chinese earth-moving equipment and 2 patrol boats clearly visible. With the Chinese build-up relentless and its intentions to change the status quo most glaring here in Pangong, the question is, how will India respond? Bureau Report, India Today.
Colonel Denny, the Chinese wouldn't have mobilized more than 2 brigades and elements of their mechanized forces just to go back quietly. What are China's expectations of India in your appreciation?
See, definitely there was an aim, and that is, the discussions had started off from, various strategic intentions of the Chinese. But I always believe that they wanted in this particular summers to, further push their claim lines in various areas, just to, just to show that to the Indians that it is not that, they'll go to take, because last year also there were a lot of clashes which had happened in this area itself. So they this time wanted to push, and that is why their claim line further ahead towards west. So they did it in Galwan. They tried in a very limited manner in Hot Spring area, and here they did a major thing. Now we must also understand that the background to this was that there was a major trigger of violence which took place in Pangong. So we must not forget that also, and the earlier video which you had shown that something had happened in Akula also. So all this thing were background to it. Now you add that to a pandemic environment in which the Chinese are already on the back foot. They don't want to be seen as a weakling. So all this added to this particular thing when when the violence which took place at Pangongso, I am not very sure what is the kind of injuries which had happened to the Chinese, what kind of, how did they take it? So many factors made them do what they did, which is to contact in a 4-point contact along the LAC, make some ingressions sort of a thing, and then move back in 3 of the places, but stick to the same place in Pangongso, which they're doing.
Let's see if now they move back.
That this is a disputed area.
Okay. Colonel Denny, I for the moment also want to shift focus to what's happening within China. People are asking President Xi Jinping questions in China. That's virtually unheard of. Now, India Today relied on open sources to bring you this report. Look, India, we lost 20 Braves. We gave them full state honors because they are our men. We are proud of their valor. We are proud of their sacrifice. But Chinese, their soldiers, by some accounts, more than 40 soldiers in China died or were injured, and they've died unsung. People are asking President Xi Jinping, why have they died unsung?
Their last trip home. India pays homage to its fallen soldiers.
मैं देश को भरोसा दिलाना चाहता हूं, हमारे जवानों का बलिदान व्यर्थ नहीं जाएगा.
The nation stands behind them in solidarity. The Indian democracy owned up the losses it suffered in the blood valley of Galwan. But the ordinary Chinese remain in the dark about their setbacks. Their anguish over censored information has poured out online.
Ever since the Galwan Valley clash, the Chinese netizens have been expressing a range of emotions on Weibo, which is their own microblogging platform. A closer look at the posts and comments enable us to see 3 key aspects and sentiments attached to them. Let me show you one by one. The first point is about the Chinese government not releasing the official list of casualties compared to India. The second point is a comparison of transparency factors between China and India as a nation, given India officially honored the martyred soldiers during the cremation. The third point is about the local media in China, which has not been seeking answers from the Chinese government and in fact has been acting at the behest of the Chinese government.
In a country where information is tightly regulated and frank voices are penalized and even punished, Chinese netizens are unforgiving of Beijing's complete blackout of PLA's casualties in Galwan. Many users of Weibo, China's own Twitter, say their government needs to lay bare the uncomfortable reality. This Chinese social media user compared to India's public homage to its martyrs, to his own country's censorship of PLA losses. And skepticism is growing over widely circulated, but Unverified claims that the PLA troops were unscathed in the combat. Some Chinese netizens are worried about the condition of PLA soldiers posted in the troubled Ladakh region. Ordinary Chinese people have turned to social media to report that their loved ones in the PLA are not contactable. And many just cannot trust China's state-controlled media anymore. Given China's record in suppressing information, its citizens may have to wait longer for Beijing to disclose the casualties from June 15 bloodshed. With Sai Kiran Kannan, Bureau Report, India Today.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.